From Hybrid Studios in Santa Ana, California, this is The Art of Music Tech. Your guest today, founder of Wireworld, David Salz. And now, here's your host, Fela and Denis.
Hi guys, we're here again, Hybrid Studios, Santa Ana, California, for Artist Relations Endorse Expo. Welcome to the Art of Music Tech podcast, again, with your host, Fela, and my mixing and business partner, Denis.
Hello.
Right, today we're here with David Salz at Wireworld. We just started using Wireworld over the past few months. And wow, it's a game changer. We're on your anything audio related that you're recording, XLR, quarter inch. He does it all.
Power, digital cables.
Yes, optical. He's just the man. And we wanted to get some more detail on just the backstory of this company. Hi, David.
Hi.
Hello.
All right. Yeah, could you give us a little background on how you got into wires and your passion and how this business came about?
Well, it was a long, long time ago. When I got interested in audio, I was really a kid, and fixing things and playing with audio gear was just one of my hobbies. And until my teens, and I got into car stereo, and later on, I was in that business when cables started to show up, and upgrade cables, and I was fascinated by them from the beginning. But then I started realizing it was kind of confusing comparing cables. And what I realized that really got me on the right track was that there was a proper way to test cables. And that was to come up with a way to eliminate the cable and then put it back in. And that was the comparison to hear what the cable actually did to the sound.
All right.
So I was in my early 20s, and I discovered this. And then I realized as I tested cables that way that the various people who were supposedly making the best cables you could buy at the time had not gotten very close to eliminating the loss we hear in the cables.
Yeah.
So I decided I would make a career out of doing these tests and learning how to really get much more music through a cable.
All right. What was your first cable? Or what was the first?
Well, I started a company in 1980 called Straightwire, and I ran that company for 10 years before I sold it. And we did very well in the audiophile market, a little bit of studio cable here and there, but mostly it was hi-fi cable at that point. And then I started Wireworld after that. And in Wireworld, from the beginning, I had really more connections into the pro audio world. And so we did a little more of that as we mostly sold hi-fi cables. Mm-hmm. But more recently, as the company's evolved, we've gotten further and further along to producing, dedicated cables for musical instruments and for studios. For a long time, some of the best mastering studios like Sterling in New York used our cables.
Greg Calby, right?
Yeah, Greg Calby.
Oh yeah.
So that was the start. But now we really have a full line of cables for studio applications, including multi-channel snakes that benefit from everything I've learned over all these years. There was one big important discovery, which we call the DNA Helix technology, that basically from the time I started took 30 years before I was able to realize a really better way to make cables. Before that, I relied on a design that had been around for decades, and in fact, Mogami actually used it on a couple of cables. That's how I learned about it. Mm-hmm. But they never really went further with the design because they couldn't manufacture it efficiently. So still, if you go into the Mogami catalog, you'll see there's one interconnect cable and one speaker cable. And they'll tell you right there, this sounds better than our other stuff, but we don't promote it because we can't make it efficiently.
Yeah.
All right.
So I worked with that design, and I learned how to make it more efficiently and get it to sound better and better. But when I finally realized that there was a better way, I never looked back. And the DNA Helix design really works better because every strand in the cable is parallel with all the other strands. And this was a major solution, was to find a practical way to do that in a cable. And that's what really allowed me to move the fidelity, continually further and further ahead to the point where we are now.
Yeah.
And we have a couple of new cables that are just spectacular that we're showing here at the show.
All right. And what are those?
So we have an instrument cable called Polaris. And this is a completely new design. Our earlier cables weren't quite as flexible as some people would like. Well, the Polaris is actually more flexible than other cables. It also really sounds better. And it's a really dynamic sound. It has a lot of the benefits of our previous cables, but it goes significantly beyond that. The other new cables we have are actually microphone, and they're instrument cables as well. They do both. They're called Oasis and Equinox. And as microphone cables, these things are a revelation. A conventional microphone cable at 20 feet, compare what comes out of the cable to the input, and you really hear the cable. If it's a good monitoring system, it'll be a little muffled sounding. There'll be some tonal changes.
Always.
You won't hear the quietest sounds. It's not as dynamic. The loss, when you compare it to the input, is not hard to hear. Well, just stepping up to our Oasis makes it very hard to hear the loss of the cable. And the Equinox is even better than that. This is, substantially beyond what we've done in the past. These designs are more efficient, and the resolution is better, and the dynamics are greater, and it's a really exciting product to be able to demonstrate for people.
Oh, yeah. We have the power cables on our Neumann playback system, and it was day and night once we changed the power.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
The Aurora.
So the power conditioning cords are a very special product, and it was actually the last thing I designed before I discovered the DNA Helix. So it was really interesting because I was beating my head against a wall for years on how to even test power cords right.
Yeah.
Because I learned how to test, interconnects and speaker cables, so many years earlier. And then I finally figured out that to make a power cord better, it would sound as if we had battery power. There would be no noise. So I learned how to create tests like that, and then I started to discover the things that I could do that would fix the problems that we heard. Fuzziness and some dynamic compression and various problems from the power line that were not being isolated properly by power conditioners. And so once I learned how to do that, the design really started moving ahead, and to the point where we have it right now, these power conditioning cords really make surprising improvements. Even people who know upgrade power cords from other companies are not expecting improvements this big.
And not too many people pay attention to that actually, but it really helps out the imaging and the depth and the separation while you're mixing, recording, or just listening back.
Yeah, these things really, as an engineer, it can really make your job a lot easier. We have some interesting blog posts from the cables recently going out into new people's hands that, really solving problems in terms of residual noise within the studio, and just issues with just general fidelity and being able to hear something and get it to translate right. We've done a test when we just went on YouTube and played a YouTube video, a hip hop track, and the low end sounded just much tighter and cleaner, and it sounded super round.
To tape. I mean, you could hear the difference. So.
And it still surprises me that people, engineers who are very good at making other tests will just swap cables and hear differences and never really try, the shortest connection that they can make compared to a long length of cable. Because that's when you really know what the cable is losing. Yeah. And without that, I never would have learned how to do any of this stuff without proper testing. So now we go out of our way. We actually do public tests for people, and sometimes even in an auditorium, where we're absolutely able to demonstrate this. Yeah. And the test is that, for a given application, if you can plug in a length of what's supposed to be an appropriate cable and compare it to direct and not hear a difference, well, there's no upgrade I can make.
You can do, yeah.
Yeah, if somebody's hearing or the playback system or whatever don't allow them to hear the loss of the cable, then it's not, there's nothing that can be improved, but that is so rare. When people make this comparison, they're usually completely shocked that they could have been listening through a cable that had that much loss.
Yeah.
Sometimes these are upgrade expensive cables, but, those cables were just designed to change the sound.
That's the whole thing. Yeah.
That's exactly what we're trying to undo.
Yeah. Making the world sound better. And another thing, the USB, digital cables, they really improve audio interface sound.
Yeah, and that's another thing that people are very surprised by, and that is that digital audio cables create loss that we can hear. But it's the same test. We start
and
with the signal.
You wouldn't think so until you try it, I guess,
Yeah.
right?
Right. I've had some interesting conversations with substantial people in the industry who, because they heard things about cables that they knew were bullshit, were not expecting that there could be a real cable that actually really improves fidelity. So one of these people is Bobby Osinski, who's known as a leading educator in the pro audio world. And of course, he readily admitted that a cable could change the sound, but the whole idea of upgrading fidelity is a much higher hurdle to pass. Mm-hmm. And by showing him not only the fact that we were preserving waveforms better, but that he could hear the music, and he's also a working engineer. He does a lot of post-production. And he realized it really made his job easier. I think
Much
the thing
easier.
that impressed him the most was the power cords. And now, any
Yes.
job he goes on, he's got our cables with him now for the last few years.
Us too.
Us too. As a matter of fact, we're doing the interview with using your cables.
Yep.
So I can't wait for him to hear the new cable. We just told him about the new cables the other day, and he is just dying to hear them. So,
Oh yeah.
I'm
Us
looking
too.
forward
Us
to
too.
to getting those samples to him because, like I said, an instrument cable that makes an instrument sound better is one thing, but a microphone cable that lets you hear a lot more
Yeah.
is always exciting. And we had those advantages before, but now we've doubled that advantage. So it's
Amazing.
it's huge.
Wow.
All right. Well, I think
Yeah, I mean, those power cables are good on guitar amps and bass amps.
Oh,
They
yeah,
just
yeah.
clear out.
We love to demo them on
Yeah,
a
yeah.
bass amp because the bass sounds more percussive.
oh yeah,
and it's
just
just
rounder,
thicker. Yeah,
and
rounder.
thicker. It's great.
I just
Well,
love bass.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, work
Who
with
doesn't like low
exactly.
end?
I
On
love
the low end.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
we actually Stu Ham is one of our endorsees, and he'll be playing in our booth here at the show.
Oh,
And,
Great. Okay.
Fantastic.
We'll
All
get to hear them.
right. Well, thank you so much, David, for taking a moment of your time here at Endorse Expo.
thank
And can't wait to record more with it. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
All
I'm
right.
happy
Thank
to do
you.
it.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Let's go, let's go, let's go. Thank you once again, David Salz, for taking a few moments to tell us some more about Wireworld. Wow.
Sharing some tips and tricks.
Tips and tricks. Wow.
How
Yeah.
to improve
He
a
just
signal flow.
changed technology, not
What's
just do
all-
it better.
How do you send the signal via cable, right? That makes total sense. How do you hear sound? Well, you connect your audio interface to a speaker using a cable. But if you use a $5 cable, well, your speaker is going to sound like $5 cable,
Yeah, I mean, it's
even
just,
if you got expensive speakers.
Yeah, I mean, it's all the components. They all matter, and that's the great thing about talking with the manufacturers. And it's not just BS. It's just you're getting it from the source. How they're coming up with the technology and
And why?
the passion
Reason
on why they're doing it. Yeah,
why would you improve audio, and why not?
yeah.
Right? You get cleaner sounding instruments in the mix, in the recording, and you save so much time in post-production by doing it right
Yes.
in the studio.
Yep.
whatever you do, podcast, live recording, studio recording, or you're an independent artist, you record at your, you got a home studio, home setup. You get a couple cables here and there, and boom, you got a high-end setup.
Yeah. It's just a few pieces. We're not saying go out and get 15 high-end
As a matter of fact,
cables.
Wireworld got some high-end expensive cables, which are and they start at $1,700, $2,000.
Yeah, it can really get
cable.
up there. But actually, his latest is, like he was saying, is the price point is pretty reasonable with the latest technology that he's dealing with. The other stuff,
of course, they sound great.
Yeah, of course. The other stuff was more about the material, but the newer stuff is about the technology.
Expensive material. Some expensive material they use there.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, those earlier models and the more expensive stuff is just this specially made silver out of Japan.
Copper?
Yeah, they have silver and copper,
yeah.
on the more expensive stuff. But the latest cables he was talking about, they just have better technology. So it's just like, oh, okay, so I can get a better cable even with a different or better.
I mean, they've been around for 30 years.
I mean, it's more just he created it. I mean,
and
created
they're affordable.
Technology, and making it more affordable than the $2,000 cables that were available. But the latest are gonna be like $150 for like a 20-footer or something like that.
Yeah, something like
range.
that.
So
it's still, I would say, it's not expensive, but it still is.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If you look at the market, and we're talking about consumer level.
Yeah.
You probably get cable for $20, but it won't sound
Yeah. I mean,
like Wireworld for $150.
Yeah. But I mean, this is the stuff that you're wondering why you don't sound like the big guys. The big guys are using heavy duty cables on their converters and on their playback systems, just getting everything as crystal clear as possible. And this technology that he's come up with is, even giving us smaller guys a chance at, at touching these cables. So,
and they're based out of Florida.
Yeah, out of Davie, Florida. So shout out to David and
David Salz
coming out with this
invented some great cables.
Yeah.
Their own technology.
Yeah. So we're using right now Aurora 7.
That's a power his power cables improve sound and recording just big time, right? Drastically.
Oh yeah. Just big time.
Then digital, he came up with the recent was optical, right?
Yeah.
We got a USB 2.0 USB cable for audio interface, and it improved. We got it even better.
Yeah.
So I didn't think USB cables
really mattered, but yeah, now we hear that it matters now. We're using the Starlight 7 USB audio cable on our USB devices, and it's just,
and they go for $85, right, on their website, but they got $450 USB cable as well.
Oh yeah, they can go pretty high.
Super high end. So
Yeah. But
you still have room to improve.
Oh yeah, we even have
room to
more room to.
Hey, it's all about knowing where and how you can improve.
Yeah. Exactly. Where and how, and for us in the small spaces tend to have not so good electricity as well. And the Aurora 7 just really cleared it up for us, working out of small spaces and going to other people's basements and to record and get stuff.
I mean, you record in New York City.
Yeah. The power situation in New York City is not
very stressful.
Yeah, so
power and frequency if you're dealing with wireless. Yeah.
Adds up on top of everything.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff going on in heavy populations like that, and where we're at. So anything you can do to help, the better. Yeah. So I think that's gonna wrap up another Art of Music Tech podcast. I'm Fela.
And I'm Denis.
Yes, please follow us, leave questions, everything. Let us know how you feel, and what else you would like for us to cover. Thank you so much for listening.
For more information of booking 23dB Productions, visit their website at 23dbproductions.com. Like and follow 23dB Productions at Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter for the latest work.